we've just said that we will be running this session. So I'm going to try and get everything into the hour. There is a lot to go through today. As I said, it is a practical guide, so it is a how-to. I'll show you exactly how to comply with the IT systems and devices part of the DSPT toolkit. So I'm going to be showing a lot of screens as we go throughout, just highlighting a lot of pieces of information. Another thing I will highlight is I can share this PowerPoint presentation to everybody at the end, if that's what you'd like. It includes all of the links that I will go through today. So again, before we get started, please do use the chat. If you do have any questions, pop them in there. You'll see me looking over here a lot throughout the session. The reason for that is because I've got all of my notes up there and also the chat. And I'm just keeping an eye on that as we go throughout the session in case anyone's got any questions. So really quickly, jumping straight into this, the DSPT toolkit, we know there are two different areas that you will see. We've got the mandatory and we got the non-mandatory. Now, I will quickly explain those and then we'll go to the toolkit itself to showcase this. If you complete all of the mandatory aspects of the DSPT toolkit, you will receive approaching standards. And then to get standards met, you need to complete all questions. So I'm going to go through both. I've chopped them up into two different parts. So we'll look at the mandatory first, and then we'll go through to those non-mandatory. Again, mandatory, you need to complete to hit approaching standards, and then all of them for standards met. So really quickly, we're going to look at those mandatory ones as I mentioned, and I do have the toolkit here on my screen. So when you log into the toolkit, you will see there is a section, IT systems and devices. That is specifically what we will go through today. So I will give you that practical guide how to meet each of these steps, because there's quite a lot of piece of information there. It tells you to do something, but then exactly how to do it, that's often where we find people are getting stuck. So that first one that we're going to look at is if IT staff, directors, trustees and volunteers use their own devices, for example, phones, for work purposes, does your organization have a bring your own device policy, and is there evidence of how this policy is enforced? So one thing I will mention about the toolkit, you can click on each of these. So if we go into the first one, if I click onto this, obviously it just has a bit more information on this. It explains what this actually means. And then the digital care hub is linked in all of the ones on here, which obviously you need that additional information. And you'll see there is a link to the digital care hub, which will explain in depth what this is and how to comply with this. So once you have met this, you just need to tick the checkbox at the top and then save it. And you can add comments in there as well if you need to, or if it directs you to, but this is optional in this case. Now, I'm just going to go across to the presentation itself. What I've done is, again, I've put these into mandatory, non-mandatory through the presentation, just so it's a nice, easy walkthrough guide for you. As I say, I have put a link in here as well, which will show you how to actually develop a policy. So this first one is, does your organization have that bring your own device policy? Is there evidence of how it's enforced? Often we get the query, a lot of people, they don't know how to start creating this policy, what certain things need to be met. And again, I have put a link to the National Cybersecurity Centre on here. So what that looks like, if I just go across, is this is the link that I've included in the presentation. It's just got how you can develop your policy. So on this one, quite straightforward. You just need to follow these steps here. Obviously, establish your goals. Just follow this through, and then it does have templates for how you can build a policy. I won't go through this one in great detail, as we'd be here, as I say, for the full hour. And there are some technical features I do want to show you in detail. But that's why I put the link in here, just so you click on here, you follow through, establish your goals, how to build a policy, and then how you can enforce those. Once you've got that in place, you can just tick that box and go through. And that is down to you. Now, one thing that I will say, again, throughout this presentation is there is, as you go through these mandatory questions, when you get to the non-mandatory, you will find that we've actually covered multiple areas just by following certain pieces. And the next slide I've included is actually on how to protect your devices. And the reason I put that in there is as part of that policy for bring your own device, you will need to have those devices protected. So again, what does that mean? A lot of people say, well, you're telling me how to protect, I need to protect my device. I don't know what meets the criteria. So I've just jotted some pieces here, such as switch on screen lock protection. So I'm sure all of us probably know how to do that from using our own devices. For instance, a phone, tablet, even a laptop. And usually you just need to go to your settings. You need to look at those privacy settings, again, dependent on your device. And then you need to go through and look at how you're setting your screen lock. Now, I will just give a piece of advice if you're using certain pieces of screen lock for, say, a mobile phone or a tablet. If you're using screen lock which requires a pattern, don't make the pattern too simple. A very common one, which a lot of people use, is they will have the screen lock option where you draw a pattern, and most people will draw literally an L shape in one direction or the other. And so many devices can get access by just simply following that pattern. So you need to make it complex. And again, screen lock protection can also be passwords, passcodes. Again, I've included some information on this, and later on this presentation, there is another slide which dives into that. Again, just touch on that, make sure they're complex, don't make them easily traceable. Another one is make sure lost and stolen devices can be tracked, locked, or wiped. So again, if you're bringing your own device, if you're accessing work systems, you need to make sure they're secure, because if you lose your device, someone accesses it, all the information and data will be compromised. So I've included two useful, and again, I'm using these ones as examples as they are the most popular ones we find, but you can do your own research and you can use different ones. This is just from the advice that is included here. Two ones that you can use are Google Find My Device and then Find My for iOS. Again, I'll show you what those look like now. So for Find My Device, and again, I've just used just a brief example here of just one certain device. Again, I haven't used this for 3 days, so it's in quite a random location at the moment, which is definitely not where I am right now. So if you're using an Android device, if you're using a Windows computer, you can download the app onto the device, which is Find My Device. As you can see, Google Find My Device. Once you download that, it will get you to log into your account, your Google account, and then you can attach all the relevant details. So it will apply your device details to that app, and then you can switch it on. Obviously, you will need to use location in order for this to work. So if you are out and about, it's worth popping that location on. If you're going somewhere, traveling with this device that has work information on, I know location will drain your battery. But for the purposes of actually finding your device, you will need that on. Now, when you say, for instance, I've got it on my phone, I've lost my phone. Obviously, I've already downloaded the app and everything's on there. I've lost it. What I'll do is I'll then go access a computer. I will go to Google Find My Device. So I'll just literally type that into Google Find My Device. It'll get me to log into my Google account. So again, using those login details. And then from there, it will show you your device. So this is just one of my devices that I've registered with this application. And then there's a number of options that we can do. So provided your location is on, it will show you the exact location of your device at the time. Again, very beneficial if you've lost it. A good example of this was my brother actually was once driving home. He had been to a petrol station. He'd put his phone on top of his car. He'd then driven off. It had actually flown off his car. And then he went home, he logged into Find My Device, and he saw that his phone was in the middle of a roundabout. And so he drove there at night when it was quiet, went onto the roundabout using Find My Device, and then he played this sound feature, and he was able to find his phone in a bush on the roundabout. So again, what I'd recommend with this, to meet the DSPT criteria and to ensure your device is protected, is if you do lose it, log into this, secure your device so no one can access it. So you can literally click on here, secure device, follow those steps. And another very useful step is if your device is not secure or has been compromised, or someone is walking around with it, you can see your device moving around multiple locations, I would recommend doing a factory reset. The reason for that is it will wipe everything from the device, and you can do that remotely. And that way it just ensures everything is safe. So again, Find My Device if you're using Windows or Android. And if you're using iOS, you can go to an app called Find My. So again, very much like Find My Device. Again, you can register your Apple device on here. You can see this one has, if I scroll down here, you see it's got several devices registered. Again, you can look at where it is on the map, and you can also use those same security features, such as playing a sound to find your device. You can also, again, display messages, and you can also erase everything from the device as well. So again, if you lose this device, just to make sure everything is safe, if it goes into the wrong hands, you can remotely erase it by using Find My by iOS. Again, this is a very useful tool, and you will need to do this as well as part of DSPT, and we'll go into that later on. But if you're using your own devices, this is something that you would need to include in the policy. Another way to protect your device is keep devices and apps up to date. So again, I will touch into this a bit more later, but you need to keep them updated. The reason for that is whenever you are prompted to do a software update, and you probably all have been prompted to do software updates on your devices, it can get annoying. You just swipe it or you just cancel it. The reason you need to do those updates is it's protecting your device from the latest attacks. So for instance, we could have the latest software today, and it basically makes our device impenetrable from a hacker or an attack or malware, whatever it might be. But as we know, technology is constantly evolving. What could be unhackable today, with a technological breakthrough in next week, it could literally be that someone could break into that software system in a matter of seconds. And with those latest software updates, it will keep your devices up to date with the latest security. So very important that you are doing those. Now, how do you check for updates? So for instance, if you're using a Windows computer, what I often say is if you go across to Windows, I've just logged into a random account that I have here, and all you need to do is go to settings, and I literally just type in updates. So you can just check if there's any updates on here. So I'm just going to go to Windows updates, have a look. I do know there is an update that I do need to do. I actually updated this morning, so I need to restart my computer still. But on here, you can check if there are any updates. Again, you can go to update history and get latest updates as soon as they're available. As you can see, I've got that off. Wouldn't recommend that. I have that off because I do check regularly, but you can just toggle that on, and then your computer will update as soon as there are latest updates. Again, with iOS, if you're going to your settings, again, you're looking at updates, just simply just type updates into any of these to check updates. If it's an Android, again, go to your settings and you can literally search updates dependent on your device. You will have a different setting here. So again, type updates, go through, update your device. Very straightforward. But again, you need to ensure you have the latest software to protect you from the latest attacks. And then another way is protecting your own devices is to only connect to trusted Wi-Fi networks. Now, I run fraud and scams cybersecurity sessions, and this is an aspect that I include in here. This is also found in the DSPT as well, about the emphasis on public Wi-Fi networks. Now, there is a risk, and what I say in this case is public Wi-Fi is public. So one of the ways that we can protect ourselves is if you're not willing to share something in public, would you go ahead and do it in public? So for instance, would you do access patient records? Would you access sensitive information, staff records, whatever it might be, anything that's sensitive or confidential to you? Would you do that in public? Probably not, most probably not. And so what we say is, in this case, use either your data, so that is your own private network, use a VPN, which is a virtual private network. So if you're really stuck and you do need to log into a public Wi-Fi, you can download an application called a VPN, so virtual private network. Again, do your research on there. I'm not going to sit here and start advertising them. I have no affiliation, but do your research, check which is the most suitable for you. Some of them you have to pay for, some are free, but it just ensures that your information is private when you are logging into a public Wi-Fi network. So again, you wouldn't want to do these things in public, so you need to have a way to hide it. If you really need to do it and there's only public Wi-Fi, again, I just would not recommend accessing those confidential pieces of information in public. Now, a story here as to why that I always use, and it is a real example, and it's something that's been picked up many, many times, is people will create fake Wi-Fi networks. So what I mean by that is, say you go into a coffee shop and you need to use their Wi-Fi. You go on the Wi-Fi settings, you see 2 Wi-Fis for that coffee shop. 50-50, you just click on one, you sign in, you tick the terms and conditions, you do everything you need to do, you go home, and a few weeks, months later, you find that there's been a data breach for the organization or potentially for yourself. What you didn't know is someone had set up a fake Wi-Fi network for that building. They'd used the name of the company to lure people in because they knew people would just shoot 50-50 there. And basically everything that's going through there, they have tracked and stolen. Best way around this is just check with the staff, or just don't use it or report it. But this has been something that has been picked up many times, and it just highlights the risk. Also, if you are using public network, do check the terms and conditions. A lot of us have that T's and C's page pop up. We just accept it and move on. Check how they're using that data. So again, those are just some pieces of how you can protect your device. Again, I have included more throughout this presentation on each of these with links as we go through. So IT systems ISAs, again, the mandatory one that we've got here. Does your organization have a reliable way of removing or amending people's access to IT systems when they leave or change roles? Quite a simple one. This is down to you. So when people change roles or leave the organization, there needs to be a method in place to amend or remove their access to your IT systems. You don't want someone to leave your organization and no audit check has been completed and they can just jump into your systems whenever. You need to ensure that that's not in place, especially if someone's been struck off and you don't want them accessing it. This could be, again, you could have a periodic audit to make sure that people's access rights are at the right level. And again, if we're looking at leavers of the organization who have access to personal data, check their rights have been revoked. And that's down to you. You can build your own procedure, how often you're checking that. That is your discretion, that you need to have a plan in place to make sure that this is being monitored. So how does your organization make sure that staff, directors, trustees, volunteers are using good password practice? Now, we all know passwords need to be strong, obviously hard to guess, and we need to enforce this as well. So often we will create passwords and we really can't be bothered to just go ahead and make a really complex password because we don't want to remember all these passwords. So we'll just make something really simple. Maybe it's a date of birth or a pet name or something like that. Now, you'll be probably one thing I will say on passwords is that quite often there's a misconception here, perception here that people literally believe someone is sat behind a computer trying to guess their password. It's not the case. Quite often there are systems that are sifting through thousands of combinations of passwords a second to crack a password. And it makes it easier for a criminal if they have information on you. Because if they have information on you, they can apply that into their system, and then it will sift down even more to more targeted information on yourself. They can crack your password very quickly. So a good website to use is How Secure Is My Password? And again, I've brought this up on the screen for us today, and I've put it in the presentation here. I wouldn't recommend using your actual passwords in here, maybe just a template for how you'd build a password, but it just looks at how secure a password is. So for instance, if I use a password, which is, believe it or not, the most common password used is password, all lowercase, that can be cracked instantly by a system. I could use, again, my name, so I could just put my name in here, 2 minutes, if they've got information on me, instantly. If you use lowercase words, so maybe I just do Apple, instantly, Apple 12, 1 second. So these very simple passwords, it would take a computer a second to crack. And one thing I'd say to you is, would you have it that the front door to your home would only take 1 second to break into? Probably not. You'd have good locks, sturdy door. So why would you have all of this information that could potentially ruin your life, your business, your organization available within a second? So what you can do on here is you can start building passwords. Now, Google will often recommend you a strong password you can use. So right now it's recommending me one. And that one that is recommended would take a computer 15 billion years to crack. One way that I recommend it, again, you can use password managers and you can save these to your password manager. One thing I would suggest is remember the password to your password manager so you can access it. And that way the system will hide all of these and store them for you. Another way you can do this is you can build your own. So we often recommend taking 3 completely random words which can't be traced back to yourself. So I could look around my desk right now. I've got a teapot sat next to me, so let's do teapot. I've got a notebook, so let's do notebook. And I've got a pen, so let's do that. Teapot, notebook, pen, completely random words that aren't associated with me, unless you're in this presentation. That would take 800,000 years to crack. Yeah, that sounds good enough. But again, as I mentioned before, technology is constantly evolving. And with that, we know that what is 800,000 years today for a computer, next year with technological breakthroughs, it could be a couple of seconds to break into. So we want to layer these passwords, make them quite complicated. So I'm now going to throw in some random capital letters. So we'll replace that T with a capital letter. We'll replace one of these O's with a capital letter. And then we'll just throw in some random characters. So let's do the and symbol, and let's just do a percentage sign. And that has taken that up to 39 quadrillion years to crack. So a great resource that you can use. It's also got tips on here, but you could get staff in the organization to use How Secure Is My Password. Again, don't put their actual passwords in there, just as a template. And you could set, for instance, as a policy in your organization that it must take this long for your password to be able to be cracked for you to have a password set. It's just one way that you could do it. Get everyone to log into their good practice. The other thing that is very useful to have, and we all hear a lot about it at the moment, is multi-factor authentication, also known as two-factor authentication, also known as two-step verification. It's got a few different names. And basically, multi-factor authentication means that if someone gets hold of your password, they still can't access the system because they need to go through that second factor. And that second factor is something that only you have. So for instance, it could be a code sent to your mobile phone, and the criminal would physically need your phone in order to do that. Quite often we see criminals targeting people because they already have the password, but they're trying to get that second step. So quite often they'll ring somebody pretending to be someone else, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm going to send a code to your phone," because they've got the passwords, they've sent it, and they're like, "Can you read me that code?" That's them trying to get into that second step. You are not to give that to anybody. And there are lots of different ways to actually set up multi-factor authentication. And I've included a link in here that's incredibly useful because it's actually a guide on how to do this across multiple devices. So this is the link that I've included. It says turn on two-step verification. And if we go down, if we keep going down, it has how to turn it on for lots of different services. So it's got some email accounts here that how to turn it on for. Again, we got it for social medias as well, and then other accounts. So lots of different ones you can turn two-factor authentication on. Most systems have it. Most don't turn it on automatically. So you need to go to your privacy settings to turn these on. But I've included this in here because it's a guide for you to turn that on. And one thing I will say is if you're going to have multi-factor authentication for anything, it would be your email. And the reason for that is quite often our email is the gateway to everything. What do you do if you forget a password? You get them to send you an email to follow a link to reset your password. Now, if the cyber criminal has access to your email address, they're going to be able to theoretically go through and start resetting your passwords. So you want to make your email impenetrable. Get multi-factor authentication on there. As I said, in this link that I've included, it will show you how to do this for some different emails. If you don't have those emails, it's a simple Google to check how you can do that. And it will literally walk you through step by step how you can do this. So right here, it says from Microsoft, sign into your Microsoft account and go to advanced security settings. Once you're signed in, you will then go to two-factor verification, turn it on. If you click turn it on, it will then bring you through step by step. So it's very simple. And as I say, I could be here all day going through each of these, but it is a simple case of going to your privacy settings, seeing if 2FA is available. If it's not, again, do a simple Google, check if they have it available for that. But if they don't, again, it's just that extra layer of security. Very useful to have if someone accesses your information. So we'll go back across if my keyboard will work. There we are. Next one is do all the computers and other devices used across the organization have antivirus, anti-malware software, which is kept up to date? Antivirus, anti-malware, they are the same thing. Don't worry about terminology here. You'll see different terminology used differently. But viruses into your computer, usually it's a malicious file which infects your computer. You do need antivirus as part of DSPT. And again, I've included a link which will detail which antivirus systems you can have, how to set them up. And as I say, antivirus is designed to detect and remove viruses and other kinds of malicious software. As I say, known as malware, could be even ransomware from your computer, laptop, mobile devices. And again, this malicious software is designed by criminals to harm your devices and to get them data so they can harvest data as well. And your devices can become infected by unintentionally downloading malware, and it could be from clicking on a link, from a suspicious email, text message, or simply visiting an unsafe website. So very important you have antivirus software installed on your computer. So what I've done is I've included this infographic on the presentation, which again, you can access via the link in the previous slide. It explains a bit of what antiviruses are, how your devices get targeted. And this is something you can use as upskill as well amongst staff. It says which antivirus should I use? So again, it says antivirus is often included for free with Windows and Apple computers if you switch on that built-in feature. You can also buy separate antivirus products like McAfee, Norton, Avast. Again, do your research on these. I'm not going to sit here and promote those. They often come with free trials, but you do need to buy them after the free trial. But do your research on antivirus system. And again, install it, and then activate it. That's all you need to do. So do your research on that. Once you've done that, you will have a system in place to protect you against malicious attacks. And again, this very useful link, very useful slide. And again, this link here goes into great detail of what it is, which ones to use, and how to use them. So how does your organization make sure that there are working backups of all important data and information? So again, another query that I get is, what is a backup? Well, a backup is simply a copy. So do you have a copy of all of your systems information, all your files? So if you're using lots of files, you've got lots of data, I would recommend that you always have a copy. And again, DSPT needs you to have this as part of the mandatory process. You need to have backups of everything. Now, it's important to make sure that backups are being done regularly, that they are successful, and that they include the right files and systems. And as I say, again, it's up to you how you are creating that copy. Why do you need it? Well, if your device gets infected by a virus or is accessed by a criminal, your data might be damaged, deleted, stolen, or even held ransom. You have people access systems and they say, we're not going to release it until you pay us. And it causes a huge delay to the organization. And again, very costly, but also if you're leaking private information, it can be a huge detriment. And that means you won't be able to access it. But if you have a copy separate from your device, so not a copy saved on your computer, but saved separately, it means that you have access to all those files and you can continue as usual. How can you do that? Well, you could have a secure external hard drive, which you put everything onto as a copy, and secure that in whichever way you do. Maybe put it in a safe or wherever it might be, or store the information on a cloud-based system. Again, it's up to you how you do this, and I have included a link which does support you with guidance here. If I go across to that, and I'll show you what that looks like. So backing up your data, and again, this is the link that I've included. Identify data that needs to be backed up. Keep your backup separate from your computer, so it'll tell you how to do that. And again, what cloud storage is. But again, it's down to you how you're doing that, but you need to make sure that it is being audited. For instance, there is a story of an organization that was it was a locality office. They were using, they had their own process to back up. Basically, the admin manager would back up the computer every evening. They would store all the external information on a drive, and then they'd put it in a safe overnight. Now, eventually they did have a system problem. So brilliant, they've got their backup. They actually went to put that in and they realized there was actually nothing contained on the external hard drive. So yes, you could be ticking a box each night to say that you're doing it, but are you actually testing it, and are you making sure that the data is actually being backed up and saved? So you need to ensure that's included in there as well from that story. So again, another quite simple one here. All emergency contacts are kept securely in hard copy and are up to date. Again, down to you how you do this. How often are you auditing this? Put securely, keep those secure. So again, could be locked away, put somewhere, but have a hard copy, so a physical copy of your emergency contacts, just in case your systems go down, can't access your systems. And again, needs to be a hard copy, physical copy. You need to be able to secure it and have an audit to keep that up to date as well. So you're constantly updating that and you're auditing that it is being done. Don't just put your emergency contact somewhere and lock it in a safe and forget about it. So how does your organization make sure the latest software updates are downloaded and installed? So as I say, a few things here you will notice are repeated from what I've already gone through. So software updates, again, we already touched on this. By looking at your settings and typing in updates, you can see if there are updates in place. I won't go over this again, but just really quickly to touch on, again, the importance there is to make sure your systems are protected from the latest attacks. And I've included, again, a link in here, which will show you exactly what I walked through earlier of how you can check software updates. As I said, check your system by going to updates or specifically typing in software updates. If it's an Android, go to your settings and type in software update. That will update your whole system and it will provide that latest protection. But it is a case of literally going to settings and typing in updates. So those are the mandatory aspects of the IT systems and devices. We're going to move into those non-mandatory so you can complete to achieve standards met. And again, some of the things in here will be repeated. You'll find as you go work through, you will actually meet certain areas. So first one here is, what does your organization have in place to minimize the risks if mobile phones are lost, stolen, hacked, or used inappropriately? Again, you probably all know the answer to this. We've got those features in place that we looked at before, such as going to Find My Device or Find My, where you can remotely access your device. I've also included in here the link that I've included in the slide, which again goes through those pieces that I discussed in detail before, which are going through passwords, password protection, make sure you can access it remotely, unlock or wipe your device, keeping it up to date with software updates, keeping your apps up to date. Again, if you have any app updates, you can go to your settings and look at and literally type in app updates. And again, you've got the Wi-Fi hotspot in there. I won't go through that as I did a whole piece a little while ago on that, but I have included the link so you can go straight through and have a look at that. But again, what are you doing to minimize the risks if your devices are compromised? So have staff, directors, trustees, volunteers been advised that public Wi-Fi for work purposes is unsafe? Again, we've gone through this in detail. I've just put in some risks in there again. So man in the middle attack. So as I said, there could be that person setting up that fake Wi-Fi, eavesdropping on your communications. So how is your information being used on a public Wi-Fi network? Do you actually know? Unencrypted network. So when you are on public, it is public. It'll likely be unencrypted. Lack of security due to that encryption. Risks of infecting your device. Again, Wi-Fi snooping and sniffing, that's what it's called. So again, unauthorized access of your data. And again, put in there again, that fake Wi-Fi. So huge risk there to using public Wi-Fi, especially when you're carrying out work purposes or accessing work systems. But again, I won't go through that too much detail because we got it there. But you need to inform all of those in the organization what the risks are of using public Wi-Fi for work purposes. So you need some training in there for them. Again, that's down to you how you're doing that, but it needs to be something that you must comply with in order to hit standards met. Again, another one that we've looked at are backups routinely tested to make sure that data and information can be restored. As I mentioned in that story before, they had a process to back up their data, but when it actually came to needing it, there was nothing there. So you need to almost simulate a scenario where you're checking, and again, could be quarterly, could be monthly, up to you, if that data is actually being saved. So you need to make sure you have a process in place, which is checking that you can access backups. So again, that's down to you, but it's something that's incredibly important because yes, this could just become a tick box exercise that isn't actually being done. And it's so critical if there is a compromise. So are all IT systems and software used in your organization still supported by the manufacturer, or are the risks understood and managed? So what I mean by this is a lot of systems will become outdated. So you yourselves probably have encountered that you have old devices and there's certain apps you can't download anymore. Quite often you see it in online banking. You'll notice after several updates, eventually your system becomes outdated if it's an old phone or computer and you can't use that software anymore. That's just an obvious example, but the same thing happens for software updates. For instance, Windows or Microsoft. older models of their operating systems, they will no longer provide updates for anymore. You can obviously see the issue there. It leaves them completely exposed. And if people are trying to attack the systems, it's going to be very easy to get into. So I'll just give you a few examples of unsupported software. So you've got Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8.1, Java, Windows Server 2008. So they are no longer supported for software updates, meaning you'll never get prompted anymore. You can't install the latest software because they're effectively outdated systems. What is the issue there? As I said, it exposes you to viruses or data breaches. And if you don't have those systems in place, you're not going to meet the criteria to ensure that software is updated. Your system's going to be exposed. So the solution here is to update your operating system. How do you check what operating system you're on? Again, you can just go to your settings and type in your operating system. Now, the latest is Windows 11. It's what I'm using right now. And it supports, again, it supports the most up-to-date version of Windows for Windows, as I said. But you need to ensure your operating system is up to date. If it's not, you can go ahead. You can actually purchase a whole new operating system. Again, you would then need to go ahead, download that operating system onto your computer and ensure that you have backed up everything, because it will literally remove everything from your system because it's a new system entirely. So you want to put those backups onto your computer. Same goes for any mobile devices that you have that might be outdated and no longer support any software updates. But as I said, when we're looking primarily at computers here or Windows, you need to make sure you have models that are up to date on there. And you can either buy a new device or you can download a whole new operating system, which you will need to buy. So you just go to the Windows site, you can download it, buy it. But again, make sure you've backed up everything ready to transfer onto your new operating system. Now, the next one is linked directly to this. So if it isn't supported by the manufacturer, so are the software risks being managed? So you need to be able to, if your answer is that it is unsupported, what are the risks? And you need to provide a document that summarizes the risk of continuing to use each unsupported item. So say I've got a computer, I'm using Windows 7. I need to explain why I'm using that. So I need to explain the reasons for doing so, and I need to give a summary of the action the organization will take to minimize the risks of using that system. If I go across to the DSPT, I will quickly log in again. Let's just go back down here. Here we are. So if I go into this one specifically, it will walk you through in detail what you need to do. So again, if your system is unsupported, this one relates to you. Again, it says it's a conscious decision to accept and manage the risks. And you need to upload a document justifying your reason and explaining the risks and how you will manage those risks. So effectively, you're justifying why you're using it and why you feel it's still safe because you have other measures in place. And it'll tell you exactly what to do here. And then once you're done, you just need to save that. So again, if your operating system is out of date, you don't want to buy a new operating system, but you have other methods in place that ensure it's protected, you need to justify that. So going back to the presentation, does your organization make sure that the passwords of all networking components, such as Wi-Fi routers, have been changed from the original passwords? So what do we mean by networking components? So that includes routers, switches, hubs, firewalls, at all of the organization's location. Your organization may have a Wi-Fi router, so just a Wi-Fi router. It doesn't apply to Wi-Fi routers for people working at home, just in the organization where it's based. So you may need to ask, again, you may need help from an IT supplier here, but the easiest way to change your password, and the reason why it's important is, again, it exposes risk of data breach if you're just using the password that was supplied to you by your provider, because their systems could get breached. and exposes it. That's why we recommend that you need to change the password. So all you need to do is log into who is providing your Wi-Fi, so whichever organization it is. And then from your settings, you'll be able to go through and manage your password and change the password. The reason you need to do that is, again, as I mentioned before, you want it separate from that organization. You want a password that's not on their system. And you want to make sure that is a strong layered password which meets the criteria as discussed earlier. So again, this doesn't go for people working at home on their Wi-Fi routers. This is just organization-based Wi-Fi routers. Yeah, so how can a folder on a computer be password protected? Again, I will go through that in a moment. So if you're looking specifically at, for instance, if you want to protect a document itself, so maybe it's a secure document. Again, maybe it's a document that you say Word, PowerPoint, Excel, whatever it might be. I always do recommend that you actually password protect those individually to start with. So all you need to do that is, if I just I'm just going to bring up Microsoft Word really quickly so we can have a look. Bear with me a second and I will show you. And this is just from a comment I just had in the chat. I just need to close this, make sure this opens. And I'm just going to go to info. Okay, so this is an individual document. So again, this applies to all Microsoft programs. So you probably use at some point Excel, PowerPoint, whatever it might be. Would always recommend password protecting your documents. It does encrypt the document once you do that. So if we're falling in line with encrypting just individual documents, if you go through to protect documents, so all you need to do once you've opened up Word or whichever document it is, just go to File, go to Info, and then you've got Protect Document. And from here, you can encrypt the document with a password. And as I mentioned, by encrypting the document, by putting a password, you are encrypting that document. So again, it makes it impenetrable. But when we're looking at DSPT and encryption, they are specifically asking that you encrypt your device. And as I say, I will get into that in a moment in slightly more detail. So as I said, on this slide that we've got now, which we're actually on at the moment. So DSPT requires our laptops and tablets or removable devices that hold or allow access to personal data encrypted. So that is what you need to meet to hit standards met. So it's the device itself. Yes, you can encrypt your system, you can encrypt your devices, you can encrypt your mobile phones. How do you do this? So what I'll say is mobile computers like laptops, tablets, removable devices, obviously vulnerable and they can be lost or stolen. To make these devices especially difficult to get into, you can convert the information on it into unreadable code, and that is what encryption is. So it's a method by which the information is converted into secret code that hides the information's true meaning. And the science of encrypting and decrypting information is called cryptography. So just some jargon thrown around there, but it basically makes the information unreadable. So you need to encrypt your system to make that. Again, that is what DSPT is requiring here. Now, for Windows, it's very straightforward. There's two ways that you can do this. There's actually three ways you can do this. One way, which I'll just really quickly, briefly list off, is through a third party. So you can Google encrypt Windows, and you can do it through a third party. Again, it's not something I do. Do your research on this. It's not something that I would entirely recommend in case you go through an untrusted resource. The other way is you can just encrypt Windows entirely. So what you do is you go to your settings. And again, I'm just going to bring up my settings. From here, you go to privacy and security. And now mine is different here. So I'll show you the third method in a second, but for those who have this option, if you go to security, you may have an option which literally says encrypt, encryption, encrypt your device, whatever it might be. The reason I don't have this is because I built my computer myself, and where I've changed so many of the components, it doesn't allow me to do that because I need to go into the BIOS and change quite a few features in order to enable that, as it needs to check all the components in my device. So if you haven't gone ahead and done that, if you just go to privacy and security, you'll probably have an option that says encrypt device or encrypt system. You just click on that, follow the options, and you can turn it on, and it will encrypt your system for you. Now, the other way that you can do it is by activating something called BitLocker. So again, to do that, really simple on Windows, you just go to find in the settings, and I just type in BitLocker, and you can see it says manage BitLocker. We'll just click on that, and it'll bring up a screen. And then from here, it says BitLocker drive encryption. So it basically encrypt my drive. So my drive being my system, it's got everything on it. And it says helps protect files and folders from unauthorized access by protecting your drives with BitLocker. So I have mine off at the moment. I do use a different encryption. I'm not going to go into that in detail because I'm not affiliated with them. But what you do is you just click turn BitLocker on if you don't have that other encryption option. It will bring up another pop-up window, which I'll just bring across. From here, it will ask if you want a backup recovery key. Yes, absolutely. If we're falling in line with DSPT, we need to have backup. That's if you can't access your folders. You're basically stuffed if that happens. So you need to have a way to recover this. So you can either save your recovery key, which you'd use if you can't get in anymore. You can save it as a file, or you can literally print a hard copy so you've got it there. And then you just go next and follow this through. So really quick recap. Either you go to privacy and security and you type, you can literally type encryption, or you can find the option under security, or you can type BitLocker if you don't have the option, and you can secure your drive. That will encrypt your system. Now with iOS, so Apple devices, believe it or not, if you add a passcode to your computer or your mobile, it actually encrypts your system. So you don't get that with Android, you don't get that Windows, but with Apple, if you set a passcode, it will automatically encrypt your system. So again, you just need to go to settings, and then you can set up a passcode for the system. You probably have one on your phone if you're using an Apple device and you've got a passcode. Your system's encrypted, so you can meet the criteria there. But if it's Windows, again, follow those steps. If it's Android, go to your settings and physically type in encrypt, and it will bring up how you can encrypt your Android device. Again, there are so many different Android devices, lots of different methods to do that. So you just need to go to your settings and physically type in encrypt. But to meet DSPT, you need to encrypt your system. So as I say, we've only got a few minutes left, so really quickly, just going through this is the final piece. Do your organization's IT system suppliers have a cybersecurity certification? And what I've done is I've just popped a link into there, but if you go to the DSPT toolkit, you go down to this option, it will walk you through. There is a guide on the Digital Care Hub. And if we go into here, it will explain in detail what this means, why you need this, and how to do this. So one way to demonstrate that you have security controls in place is to undertake a basic assessment and achieve a Cyber Essentials certificate. So you just click Cyber Essentials, and then from here you can go through and you can get that completed. So really straightforward and simple. And once you've done that, you just tick that off. And as I say, that will then be all of your options for mandatory and non-mandatory for IT systems and devices. And provided you've completed all of those, you will hit standards met. So only a couple of minutes left. Do we have any questions before I continue? I'll try my best to answer them. If I don't have the answer, I'll go away, find an answer to you. As I say, we can get this presentation emailed out to all of you at the end of this session as well. Probably be very useful because it has all those links included. And as I said, when you use the toolkit itself and you actually physically click on each one, if you don't know how to do it, you need that refresher, and it will tell you exactly how to do those things. So I'll open up if there are any questions. If not, just some information on my screen. So obviously, I'm part of that Sussex digital team. We offer lots of support and lots of free support. So everything DSPT we offer for free, and we can guide you through, we can support you with that. So you just need to reach out to us. You can go across to our website there, and also you can book onto future sessions. We run lots of sessions on all things digital. And again, I support with multiple different things: NHS mail, proxy ordering, obviously DSPT, and then obviously I do lots of sessions on digital specific programs. So you can look at what we've got available, book onto that link, and I've dropped my email on there too. So please feel free to reach out if you need any additional support. But that is everything from me.
Thank you very much, Sam. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Very, very useful. It is our first session, so it would be very useful to hear from you what you thought of it and how, and if you feel we can improve it. I personally thought it was fantastic, really well done. We will send you the recording of this session, and we will send you the slides. And once again, if you have any questions, do reach out to us and we can help you with lots of things. So we're there for you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.